All right, so today's video, I want to talk to you about a common question. Is it too late to build a powerful, iconic cannabis brand? Did you miss the boat? Is the cannabis industry over? Is it dying? Are prices plummeting? Is the end near? And I want to just have this conversation because it's something that, whether you're consciously thinking it or if it's in the back of your mind, I think it's undebatable. We're just getting started. This industry is just beginning. We want to have a conversation just to encourage some of you guys who might be thinking, because the industry is in turmoil to a degree, but it's very natural, normal, and I think it's things that we all saw would come. So I'm here with Vark on the set. Thanks for joining us here again today. So I'll throw you a question to start. How many cannabis brands are out there? If you think of the liquor industry, the fashion industry, where is our experience, there are brands that a vast percentage of the population knows about. Cannabis, multi-billion-dollar industry, growing like a rocket ship. How many, if you poll the general population, 1,000 people, how many of them can name 5 cannabis brands? What would you say is the percentage of people, or the number out of 1,000 that could name 5 cannabis brands?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. You think of it from a standpoint of comparatively. If you walk up to a dude on the street and you say, name me 10 alcohol brands, he's going to rip off Budweiser and Heineken and Grey Goose and 15 others probably. If you ask a guy on the street about cannabis brands nationally, especially, he might say a local guy, like a Massachusetts, Rhode Island guy will know a Nature's Heritage, right?
Maybe.
Right, maybe, right, if you're lucky. And, they have these awesome iconic jars with these bamboo lids. People associate that, right? But I don't think people know that. Maybe they'll know cookies nationally. Maybe they'll say, oh, Snoop Dogg has a brand, Willie Nelson, but very, very, very little to the average consumer. It's still, as we say, in a 9-inning game, people say, oh man, it's deep into it. Maybe you're not in the very first inning. The first pitch has been thrown. Maybe you're 1 or 2 outs in, but it's still the first inning in our opinion, in my opinion at least.
1 out.
1 out in the first inning.
In the first inning.
In the grand scheme of things. And you talk about the rocket ship too. I think it's a nice analogy, right? Everyone's expecting the rocket ship to just go up endlessly. But when you look at the NASDAQ chart, it never does that. And it's impossible to do that in every industry. There's highs and lows, there's ups and downs, but the inevitable success of the industry is still just as optimistic. We should be just as optimistic as we always were, even if prices are being driven down, the supply and demand is not as what it was. And effects of the market, just like everything, oversaturation, maybe too many licenses in the industry. The gold rush, everybody wants a part of it. That's going to dip. That's going to adjust our expectations throughout the course of our lifestyles, right? Our lifetimes. But when it all is said and done, the rocket ship, in my opinion, is still blasting to outer space.
It's not an opinion. Sales numbers are going up.
Yeah.
The instability, the difficulty to operate, the challenges are very apparent. Yeah, the difficulties with the tax laws. But the numbers are increasing. So it's like, how do we navigate appropriately? And we've been doing this, we're going on our 7th year now, and we've been saying it from the beginning. The we sell cannabis crowd is the wrong strategy. The idea, I'm selling cannabis, the commodity, I'm going to succeed because I'm selling cannabis. That's a short-term strategy, and it might seem like it's working when a market opens, but long-term, that's not the way you want to go. You don't want to use the same packaging as everyone else. You want to differentiate yourself. We've been saying this 7 years now. And I think that's all the more true now. You have to separate yourself. So what do you think of this idea? How does a brand think about how they want to separate, how they want to pick the right packaging? Do you think they start with a target consumer in mind that they want to appeal to? If you look at just a couple of the examples in front of us, or is it sort of just preference of what they think is cool? What have you seen, or what's your opinion on this?
You always have to start with the target consumer, but I think more important than that is deciding what direction you're moving in as a company and what your brand really stands for. It's brand over everything, right? We say that a lot, but a lot of people don't always follow that direction. So it's, what does your brand stand for? Are you more earthy, crunchy? Are you give back to the community? Do you want to focus on sustainability? Are you about having the best premium flower? Are you about having a value brand? Because that's also not brand. Sometimes look at value, oh, this cheap. No, that works for a lot of companies. Think about all the retailers in America right now that are doing best.
The biggest companies in the world are often the value brands.
The TJ Maxx, the Burlington Coat Factories, the Ross stores, those are the guys that are kicking butt. And these higher, right? So like you have that, and that's very much a strategy, but you need to have a strategy. You can never be all things to all people. So these people that kind of fly by the seat of their pants, have a different marketing director every 6 months, try to reinvent the brand, it definitely does not work. So pick a lane, stay in it, hammer it, focus on it, and do your best to become something special to someone. And once you establish your brand and once you stick to it, because we also have a lot of guys that are not sticking to it, right? We launch, we create it, we have a big marketing budget, we put product behind it, we put packaging, we tell the story on Instagram, we throw all these awesome concerts, and we have dual sponsorships, but oh crap, now the industry's tough. Now we have to back off. And remember those pop tubes? I think those pop tubes are going to sell just as much as these gorgeous packages, right? Let's go back to the pop tubes. We can save a couple bucks, and maybe our Q3 results will be a little bit better. So when right, that is a dangerous strategy, and that's not a long-term winning strategy. That's short-term, that's fearful, that's like reactionary. And again, I blame no one and I begrudge no one, because sometimes we do it, right? You always got to tighten your bootstraps, your belt straps. But when it comes to building a great brand, and it comes to establishing yourself as the next Heineken or the next Grey Goose, because those brands are going to be created in cannabis, we know that. That is not the strategy, and that is not the way. So I would say focus on a vibe, focus on your brand over everything, stay committed, and keep moving forward.
And if you're going to go that value route, I think it's key to say, because some people, maybe the Pop Top is the right choice if you are that value brand. But if you are the value brand, how are you really going to win long term? Are you the value brand because the market's declining and you're hanging on to pennies? Or are you the value brand because you have the powerful brand, you have the distribution, you're seeing the sell-through, you're relating with your customers? We can long term be the value brand. That's a strategy, but I think only a few people are going to really succeed at that strategy mathematically. There's a Walmart and an Amazon that win the value game. The rest of the people, if they try to join that race to the bottom, they're going to struggle as opposed to differentiate. Let's take a look at a couple of the packages
I'll interject one more time too, because
please.
Again, we can look at the retail and the fashion space to learn from it, right? You can have different brands within your organization. You know, all these major stores, Walmart and Target. Walmart has 30 brands, private label brands. They have no boundaries for the Missy market. They have the Wonder Nation for the children's market. They have George. They have Time and True for different markets because they tell different stories, right? So when people try to have one brand and they have a value and they have a high-end flower and they have pre-rolls and they have edibles and they have all these different things that mean different things, that to try to jamming into one thing, it's like just a cash grab, or it's not thought out properly. So there's nothing wrong with differentiating within your own story by having multiple brands or telling different stories within the brand, but you got to do it properly and consciously. You can't just have it out there and like, people know us, so they'll buy this stuff. That again is not the way to long-term succeed.
That's the we sell cannabis mindset, right? Versus what you're saying, I think, is focus on a certain target audience. Who am I appealing to? And then make packaging
Build a brand
that will appeal to that person, that will compel, that will make them feel a certain way, that will connect with them. That's I think, definitely the long-term strategy. So just a few options. We'll just give a few shout-outs. Nectar Golds. This one gets tons of positive feedback. This is one of our locking tins. Differentiated, beautiful packaging. Especially, so this is one of Ark's favorite projects, an influencer box for nature's heritage made out of bamboo. This is epic, not to mention their jars. I think, did they win Item of the Year this year, or they were a finalist in
They won Item of the Year.
Item of the Year. There we go.
If you create some baller-ass packaging, you're going to win Item of the Year.
And they got a nice donation to a charity of their choice. And then this is Standard Wellness, actually their concentrates in a ring box. So taking a page out of the fashion industry. I like when the concentrate jar's not in there so we can focus on the box, right? That was on purpose. So we got the ring box there, differentiating yourself, especially in a world where in the cannabis industry, we're not in traditional retail, barring a few exceptions on the West Coast, which is pretty cool, those exceptions, but you're not grabbing products in the store. So your hands are even more tied as a marketer. You don't see the flower like you would in a grocery store, right? And I can see the strawberries. I'm going to pick the freshest strawberries. A lot of the time, you're seeing a prop underneath glass in a display case. So to think that the packaging isn't important and that it's not part of differentiating yourself, to me, does not make logical sense. And I think you got to be very careful in a competitive market not to join that race to the bottom. That's how we see it. If you see it differently, Drop it in the comments below. Let's have a discussion about it. But truly, differentiation is the way to success in every other industry. Cannabis really is no different. Any final remarks here?
No, I would say it's clear. And again, we're businessmen. We know how business is. We know when the economy gets tough. You know, our father dealt with it in the late 70s and 80s, and, you know, the recession in 2007. We all know business, and we all know that we can't just have this glorified idea that everything's going to be perfect. But what we're saying is, when it comes to having to cut costs, hurting your brand is not the way to do it.
Right.
And whatever that means, whether it's packaging or all the other multitude of things that are being put towards growing a great brand and focusing on a great brand and building a vibe and connecting with people inside your company and out. Because that's another big thing I think we don't talk about as much, is getting your staff, getting your employees, getting people that are prospectively coming to your company. How important is your brand and what you stand for as a company to those people? So it's not just about sales. So what we're saying is we want to make sure we're not insensitive. We want to make sure we're not being foolish, because we don't want you to think that. But when it comes to cutting, you don't do it on your brand. You do it in other areas.
And much of our strategy is value packaging options, because we know prices are dropping. So we're very much in tune with that. How do we still have beautiful child-resistant packaging that is affordable? So we're not saying pricing doesn't matter. I think it's a valid point, in case that's not communicated clearly in this video. It's just don't run to the bottom and go to the most generic thing and say, you know, what's the point? Build a brand. We're still in that first inning, and hopefully this video has you thinking. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you on the next one.